At the end of the school year, everything turned upside down. The district decided to get rid of all assistant and vice principals, except at the high school level, and replace our roles with teacher on assignment (TOA) positions. These new jobs came with a teacher's salary plus a small stipend, nothing close to what we were making. The official excuse was budget cuts, but rumors suggested it had more to do with politics and power plays than money. I wasn't devastated by the news. Honestly, I'd been thinking about going back to teaching full-time. What hurt was how the district handled it. Instead of simply cutting my job, they told me I'd have to apply and interview for this downgraded position, essentially interview for a job I was already doing. To make matters worse, the new admin team replacing me and my principal acted like they were already in charge, treating me with zero respect. Still, I wanted to leave on a high note, especially for the amazing staff I'd worked with. I spent my final days approving their supply requests, helping them avoid mandatory summer training, and setting them up for a smoother year ahead. I also didn't hold back when I told the acting superintendent what I thought of their decisions. They were replacing a solid team of educators with people who cared more about pleasing parents and looking good than doing the work. I let them know exactly how I felt before resigning. In the end, I accepted a teaching position at a STEAM charter school run by a friend who'd been trying to recruit me for years. I'd get to create my own curriculum and focus on what I loved, teaching. Best of all, my daughter was excited to join the same school, where she already knew some friends and couldn't wait to explore their tech and science programs. As I packed up my office, I decided to write personalized goodbye notes for my staff, paired with scratcher tickets as a small thank you. It was my way of showing appreciation for the people who made this job worth it. But of course, the new admin team wasn't done making my life difficult. My last days on campus would be anything but smooth. When the district announced the changes, we were told to meet with the assistant superintendents for individual meetings. I assumed it was to finalize our contracts. Instead, I walked into a room with the acting superintendent and the head of HR. That's when they told me my position was being cut. They didn't explain why, just handed me 3 options. Go back to teaching, take a district office job, or apply for the TOA position replacing my role. The fact that I had to interview for a job I was already doing felt like a slap in the face. I didn't need until the end of the week to decide. The next morning, I told them I'd go back to teaching, but not in this district. I made it clear that their decision to cut administrators and replace them with cheaper, less experienced staff was short-sighted. I also called out their choice to bring in a lazy, mean-spirited new principal and her equally ineffective TOA to lead my school. Before I left the meeting, I demanded a stellar letter of recommendation for the years I'd dedicated to their district. Later that day, I met with Tony, one of the few decent leaders in the district. He confirmed what I'd suspected: this wasn't just about the budget. There had been a shakeup at the district office. My current principal was leaving due to health issues, the superintendent was let go, and Tony's former boss, an assistant superintendent, was being demoted to principal at my school. To make matters worse, the new TOA had already been hired, a high school counselor who just happened to be the new principal's close friend. I started wrapping things up at work, but the new admin team made it nearly impossible. They demanded I clear out my office immediately, even though I still had work to do. They tried to take my personal chair and supplies, acted like I was their assistant, and snapped their fingers at me like I was some kind of servant. So, I decided to make my exit on my own terms. First, I removed everything that was mine. My chair, decorations, filing cabinets, even the fridge I'd brought for the staff room, all gone. I warned the office staff, but I forgot to tell the new admin team. When they found out, they were furious. The fridge? My property. The chair? A gift from a friend. The filing cabinets? Bought with my own money, so I took them too. All the files I'd meticulously organized. I stacked them into a chaotic pile on the floor. Next, I approved every request from my staff. Supply lists, maintenance requests, even a kiln for the art teacher. They all got the green light. I also pre-approved their time-off forms for the following year, which I technically had the authority to do until my last day. To save them from the district's hated mandatory training hours, I made copies of certificates from past workshops I'd led and filled them out for all the teachers. Each staff member ended up with 24 hours of training credit. exactly what they needed to skip the summer sessions. Then, I turned my attention to the new admin team. I deleted every file I had created from the district system, copied all my emails, and removed my repairs from the office. The desk I had fixed? I took back the bolts, leaving it wobbly again. The closet door I had repaired? Back to its broken state. Even the two-way mirror I'd installed to monitor detention students was mine, so I removed it, leaving a hole in the wall. I also had fun with the staff binders for the upcoming year. Alongside the required materials, I included random surprises: Dilbert cartoons, cheesy jokes, song lyrics, and a map of the best lunch spots near campus. I even included the admin team's Wi-Fi password since their signal was stronger, something I knew they wouldn't want to share. By Friday, I was ready to hand out my goodbye gifts. Each teacher received a personalized note and a few scratcher tickets, with a message that read, "I hope you're as lucky scratching these as I was to work with you." It wasn't much, but it was my way of showing how much I valued them. Of course, the new admin team didn't appreciate my farewell tour. They tried to confront me about the missing fridge, my chair, and the piles of unorganized files. I reminded them everything I'd taken was mine and left them to deal with the mess. That weekend, I felt a mix of relief and sadness. I was leaving behind a school I cared about, knowing the new leadership would make things harder for the staff. But I also felt a sense of justice. I'd given my all to the school and the district, and they treated me like I was disposable. Now it was their problem. The district's mishandling didn't stop once I cleared out my office. A few days after I left, I started getting calls and emails from HR. At first, I ignored them. My daughter and I were on a road trip to San Francisco, catching a couple of Giants games and enjoying some much-needed downtime. After that, we spent a few days at Disneyland, completely unplugged from work drama. When I finally checked the messages, they all said the same thing: "It's urgent that we meet with you." I agreed to stop by the district office after my trip, more out of curiosity than concern. I didn't work there anymore, so what could they possibly want? I showed up in cargo shorts, a Disneyland t-shirt, and flip-flops. No need to dress up for people who had treated me so poorly. HR tried to butter me up at first with small talk and fake smiles. I let them ramble on before cutting to the chase. "I've got plans in 30 minutes, so what's this about?" That's when they pulled out a list of things they wanted me to return: my chair, fridge, the filing cabinets, even the two-way mirror. They claimed these items were essential to the school. They also asked for my personal forms, community contact lists, and any records or notes I'd taken about staff and students. I said no. Firmly. I explained that everything on the list belonged to me. The chair was a gift, the fridge was bought with my money, and the filing cabinets were purchased after the district refused to provide any. As for my personal notes and contacts, they were created on my time with no help from the district. I wasn't about to hand them over to people who had shown me zero respect. HR tried to negotiate, offering to reimburse me for some of the items. I reminded them I'd submitted reimbursement requests years ago and never saw a dime. Then they tried to claim some of the items might be considered school property. I invited them to take me to court if they really wanted to test that theory. I also brought up how poorly the new admin team had treated me, from snapping their fingers at me to outright stealing my chair. I let HR know I had no intention of making their lives easier after the toxic environment they allowed. To drive the point home, I handed them my lawyer's contact info. The HR reps tried to salvage the meeting, but I wasn't interested. I wished them luck and walked out. Meanwhile, I kept hearing from my former staff about how things were going under the new admin. It was worse than I had imagined. The new principal had already alienated several teachers with her rude comments and lack of support. The TOA was unorganized, overwhelmed, and leaning on the staff to cover for her inexperience. Morale was tanking fast. As for me, I was settling into my new role as a 6th grade teacher at the STEAM charter school. The difference was night and day. My new principal respected my expertise, and I had complete freedom to design my curriculum within state guidelines. My daughter was thriving too, already making friends and loving the robotics and science labs. Looking back, I couldn't help but feel proud of how I left my old school. The staff had everything they needed for a smoother year, thanks to the work I put in before leaving. The new admin team, on the other hand, was struggling to keep up. It wasn't my problem anymore, but it was satisfying to know they'd have to figure things out the hard way. Leaving my job as an administrator was bittersweet, but I know I made the right decision. The district's toxic leadership and disrespect pushed me out, but it also gave me the chance to rediscover my love for teaching. Now, I'm back where I belong, working in a classroom with supportive colleagues and excited students. It feels good to focus on what really matters, helping kids learn and grow. My daughter's happiness has made the transition even more rewarding. She's thriving at her new school, and we get to share this new chapter together. Watching her dive into robotics and science has reminded me why I chose this career in the first place. Teaching is where my heart is, and I've never been more confident in that decision. As for the district I left behind, I'll let them handle their own mess. The new admin team made their bed, and now they have to lie in it. I don't regret standing up for myself or for my staff. They deserved better, and while I couldn't change everything, I did my best to leave them in a stronger position. Moving forward, I'm focused on the future, building an engaging curriculum, fostering a love of learning in my students, and enjoying the time I have with my daughter. Maybe someday I'll consider administration again, but for now, I'm right where I need to be. To anyone stuck in a similar toxic situation, don't be afraid to walk away. Sometimes the best move is to prioritize your happiness and well-being. Life's too short to settle for less than what you deserve. Thanks for reading. If this story resonated with you, hit subscribe on my channel for more personal stories, tips, and insights. Let's keep the conversation going. Your voice matters here.